Bostonian versus the book.
That was Aaron Rodgers' thing. To your quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
It's a luxury pick. We don't have the luxury. We're trying to win right now. I'm in a window right now, and you're going to say, no, we're going to plan this for the future. With a guy who had 4 years, 4 seasons ended by injury. 4. Like, Michael Penix is a walking injury. Like, what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
The Bostonian versus the book.
And now you have to qualify in these majors. You got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness. And I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on sports.
Welcome in. A very happy Friday to you now. May the 24th here. Game time decisions on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri, and we're getting geared up again for what is going to be a huge night in the world of sports. Plenty of Major League Baseball on tap, but the playoffs will once again take center stage here tonight, like they did last night, as the Minnesota Timberwolves will try to even their series up against the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA. And, of course, in the NHL, you're going to have the Florida Panthers looking to take a commanding 2-0 lead over the New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden. The Florida Panthers and Bobrovsky coming off a shutout of the New York Rangers, and not many teams have done that this year. They're going to try to back that up with another win before they head south for the weekend here, and a commanding 2-0 lead would be huge for the Florida Panthers, but will they or won't they? We'll have plenty on that game. But last night, we did have a chance to watch the Boston Celtics, as we anticipated we would, in dominant fashion, taking down the Indiana Pacers and taking that commanding 2-0 lead here into the weekend. They'll play in Indiana, of course, tomorrow. But the storyline in that game last night, Jaylen Brown with just a monster 40-point game last night after finding out earlier in the day that he was, in fact, not considered all-world enough for the NBA, not making the all-world team there, first team all-star there for him there. But listen, like he said last night after the game, he's like, listen, we're 2 games away from the finals. I don't really have time to care about any of that. And good for him, but we all know he's full of crap. He absolutely cared. And he took it out on the Indiana Pacers last night to the tune of 40 or more. Those that had backed him in the prop betting market, kudos. That was definitely rocking chair ticket cashing wins last night. And on the flip side, the Indiana Pacers, wow, a team that went nearly 7 minutes without a bucket in the first half of that game, still was only down 6 in the first half of that game. But unfortunately, Halliburton just did not have it last night. In fact, took himself out of the game. Hamstring injury once again. That's an injury he has been dealing with all season long, especially right around the All-Star break. If you recall, missed a lot of games coming out of that All-Star break, and it just looks like it was tightening up on him again last night. We saw this when Anunoby with the New York Knicks earlier, and he saw it as well. But I hate hamstring injuries. Nothing good happens from them because the only thing that helps them is rest. And if that's the case, if he is going to be anything like he was last night, and towards the end of the second quarter, Boston recognized it too, took advantage of it. He just was not moving the same and just didn't have the same type of explosion at 6'6". Guys were running right by him. Eventually, it was just too much. We'll see if they hold out hope that he'll be available there to them tomorrow, but I'd be shocked if he has the same kind of impact as he's nursing a hamstring injury. But the Celtics, once again, find themselves in a series in which their star player on the other team is hurt and may not be available. So I can't remember a team in a conference having just that kind of cakewalk into the finals like the Celtics have. Now, they still got to win the games. Don't get me wrong. You can only play the teams that are scheduled in front of you. But my goodness, it's like a parting of the seas here for the Boston Celtics, who in 2 more wins will sit around and wait for the winner of the Minnesota and Dallas series, which many people believe tonight is going to be anything but easy. And with Dallas winning game number 1 on the road, taking home court advantage, which is ultimately in a 7-game series what teams want to do. They want to win 1 on the road to start. So they get home court advantage in their favor. Dallas accomplished that. Now, the big question is, can they go up 2-0? And the market certainly doesn't think so, as we're seeing more and more Minnesota money come into the market here. We are seeing now, as you're looking at the series price there, as Dallas has flipped. And if this, in fact, is a zigzag series, meaning Dallas won game 1, Minnesota's going to win tonight. Dallas will win game 3, Minnesota will win game 4. That is about as best as you are going to get it here. So if you did not bet Minnesota on the series line yet, because they were minus money, but you like them at plus money, well, go ahead. Go ahead and do it. If you like Dallas and you didn't bet the series price, hold off, because eventually they will lose a game and get at a much better price than the minus 154. This was always scheduled to be, I thought, a 6-7 game series. These two teams, not a lot separating them, filled with stars, filled with quality role players. They both have size. They both have toughness. I would give the advantage to Kyrie and Luka when it comes to shooting against anybody. But there is no doubt, Minnesota took down the reigning champs, the Denver Nuggets, and there is no denying that they are certainly looking the part like a Western Conference champion. But they got to get through Kyrie and Luka here, and it starts tonight. We thought it was a terrible spot. We told you on Wednesday it was a terrible spot for Minnesota coming out of a Game 7 battle against those Denver Nuggets in altitude on the road in Denver. Wasn't a great spot for them. They looked sluggish. They were about a half a step, a little too slow. They were settling for 3-point shots. They were completely out of sorts in that first game, and Dallas, to their credit, took advantage of it. Now, with a day's rest, time to acclimate, get themselves ready to go. I would expect a much bigger effort from Minnesota. In fact, the report was that Coach Chris Finch absolutely lit up this team during the film session yesterday when they broke down the Game 1 film and how many defensive breakdowns there were, how the laziness, he absolutely sent a message to his team. And I'll say this, Minnesota has responded to those types of performances all year long, which is what made the whole losing 3 in a row to the Denver Nuggets such a head scratcher, because they had up to that particular point never lost 2 in a row, much less 3. And they have usually responded. And if you are of the belief that the Minnesota Timberwolves will respond here tonight, then there is no reason. And the market is following that suit. There is absolutely no reason not to back them early and back them late. And if you are of the mindset that, listen, Denver set out to win one of the first 2 games and they have already done that, well, then you're going to wait to see how high this number goes. Because as of right now, this was 5.5 earlier today. It is now 6.5, and it looks like this thing is trending up near 7 before tip-off coming up at 8:30 Eastern time here tonight. If it gets to 7, yikes. We're going to have a different conversation before this show is over. But as of right now, you're seeing a lot of 6.5s available in the marketplace. The total is what fascinates me, and we're going to spend some time this hour talking about that total and the best way to approach this game. We also have another game, too, coming up in Madison Square Garden. This one at the top of the 8 o'clock Eastern time hour with the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers. We'll have much more on that important game, too, as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
Missed call the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called, or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offense and defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. Mm-hmm. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in-game live. Not in-game live, Game Time Decisions. In-game live, by the way, coming up 8 o'clock Eastern time here. As soon as we're done, they're going to get you ready for the puck to drop there in Madison Square Garden, as well as the opening tip in Minnesota for Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals between the Dallas Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And here to help us try to figure some things out here tonight on the court, both NBA and WNBA. The coach, James Young, in the house on this Friday on GTD. And, Coach, interesting Game 1 between these two teams. You got to love it when Kyrie and Luka ham and egg it like that. It was proved to be too big a spot there for Minnesota. Dallas steals one. What do we get for round two here between these two teams tonight?
Joe, always a pleasure. I wasn't shocked that Dallas won the game. I took them plus the points. People are like, well, you like Minnesota in 7. Yeah, but if you think about a young Minnesota team that just came off the emotional lift of the blowout win game 6, then to be down 20 points in the second quarter of game 7 on the road, there was going to be a little bit of a, I'm not going to say a letdown spot, but, just a one-day prep. It wasn't enough time. But to me, the reason why that game was won, and you mentioned Kyrie, everything to me, Joe, turned with Kyrie midway third quarter game 6 against Oklahoma City. He stopped being Robin and sometimes became Batman. And that became a difference maker. He may not have scored a ton in game 6, but you saw, Joe, the aggression. So for him to come out game 1, he went absolutely off. So here, think about this. Luka bad first half, Kyrie carries him, right? Kyrie bad second half, Luka carries him, right? Bad performance by Ant. Subpar performance by Cat. Rudy Gobert, you may want to start staying away from his props during the rest of the series because I think the Rudy Gobert prop is starting to rear his ugly head again.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, if I'm Minnesota, I play with more pace. I got to get Ant the ball in space in that secondary break up the sideline where he can create and the defense isn't set. The line was 4.5 last game. Now it's 5.5. You just said it's up to 7. The books are telling you Minnesota needs this game. I think they get it. I got in at 5.5. It may be a little rich for some people's blood. Maybe you let this thing start live and then maybe come down a little bit and then jump on Minnesota. I fully expect Minnesota to win this game, cover the spread, and this is going to be a long, long series.
You're not alone there, Coach. Up to 6.5. Wouldn't shock me if 7s pop up before the opening tip at 8:30 here. I saw you had Naz Reid on there too. It's interesting. He's 21-8 to the over of those of his 10.5. I think is what it's listed in. He plays about 25 minutes. He got 15 in game 1. They're listing it at 10.5. Coach. Is there any reason to believe he can't get over 10.5 points in this game moving forward?
Run to the window and take Naz Reid. And I'm not saying it because I'm from Neptune and he's from Asbury Park, and everybody knows anything knows that Neptune and Asbury Park are neighbors. Yep. I know Naz, for a little bit. And to me, I think Coach Fitz has an issue. And it's a Gobert issue. Because what do you do with Rudy, especially if you're going to get him involved in a pick and roll and get drop coverage and let these guys go to work? Naz Reid, far more athletic, can even switch out a little bit. You can also play Naz as a 4, right? As a 4-5 with Gobert. I think Naz Reid's numbers go up. Minutes go up. I like Naz Reid, 9 out of 15 over this number, 5 out of 8 versus Dallas. I like Naz Reid over 10.5 points tonight.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple of role players really getting a lot of love in the prop market. Naz being one of them. Lively is another guy getting an awful lot of love. He too, Coach, has been playing out of his mind. He's averaging 10, 10, and 2 in his last 5 games. I know you were high on this kid early in the season. He ended up getting hurt, but he is certainly making his presence felt in this series and for the Dallas Mavericks. Got a nice little career, I think, ahead of him.
He does. He just has to figure it out. And here's the thing you have to be careful about. If you are Jason Kidd, do not play with the starting lineup. Keep Daniel Gafford in the starting lineup. Bring Lively off the bench, because to me, when he comes off the bench, good things happen. Lob threat. If you want to go look at his points prop, 7.5, I don't blame you. If you want to go points, rebounds together at 14.5, I like that. Over 9 of his last 15 games, 2 out of 3 versus Minnesota. Both of those games he went over Minnesota, he got 20 plus. But a sneaky bet, if you want to look at it, if you're willing to take a chance, is maybe a Lively at a double-double. I think he can get the minutes tonight. I think that's a sneaky little way to put a couple of bucks down and see if he can get on it. Right now, Derek Lively II to get a double-double is plus 650. I wouldn't be mad at it if you go take a look at that. And then one more, Lively ain't from Jersey, but I'm still keeping Jersey in the building. Kyrie Irving over 22.5, over 9 of the last 15. Joe, I've seen a change in Kyrie. He's become what I liked when they were with Luka and Brunson, which is first side, second side of the floor, trade roles, who's Batman, who's Robin. Under 9 out of the last 15, I get it. 3 out of 3 versus the Timberwolves. And I think Mike Conley guards him a little bit tonight. When he has gone against Mike Conley, 22.5 points. He's gone over this number 12 out of 14 games in his career. They put Ant on him. Didn't work. It's going to be Conley. It won't matter. Kyrie over 22.5 points tonight.
Yep. It's looking forward to this one here tonight. We got more to talk about and a few other head scratchers in this game coming up. We got a little WNBA action coming up as well. I know a lot of people are excited, Coach, about the Indiana Fever. Can they get their first W of the season? We'll see what Coach thinks when Game Time Decisions continues on the Grid.
Missed call the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offensive defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. And it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. The coach, James Young, hanging out with us here as we're getting ready for Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals here tonight. We're going to talk some WNBA here in just a second. But, Coach, I want to get your thoughts. We've talked about Kyrie. We talked about Gobert, but Naz Reid, some of the role players we think could very well have big nights and worth taking a look at. But in what world should Karl Anthony Towns be taking 20 more shots than Anthony Edwards in any game, in any way, shape, or form? What are we doing with Cat? Is he a fade for you here tonight?
It's not so much a Cat is a fade. I love Ant tonight. And I like Ant in the first quarter. Ant, I think his points prop in the first quarter, if I'm not mistaken, earlier was 7. I think it was 7.5 at plus money.
Yep.
I think you get a really, really aggressive Ant tonight. They talked about the fact that they did not play with enough pace, that they didn't get up and down the floor, and Ant was the one that brought it up. So to me, first quarter points for Anthony Edwards it's over 7.5 at plus 110 on FanDuel. I expect him to go off early. I expect him to go to the rack, and I expect him to look to score at will when he can. I like Ant over 7.5 points tonight in first quarter.
Yeah, I'm with you. Not great. 6 of 16 shooting in game one. He looks to improve on that here tonight. All right, speaking of improving, Coach, WNBA, one game up here tonight. The Sparks at home taking on the Fever here. Everyone seems anxious for Indiana to get that first win with Caitlin Clark. It's a pick'em price. Indiana, I think, is favored on the road here, Coach. What are we doing in this game tonight?
Oh, I'm taking the Sparks plus a 1.5 at home. I mean, what is, you know, that, so that when they pull that card up, folks, that is wrong. That's on me. That should be the Sparks plus the 1.5. Here is why. This team has gotten no games. They play every other day, right? They have the worst defense in the WNBA. Aaliyah Boston has not played well, shooting under 40% from the floor. Kelsey Mitchell should be an 18, 19 point a game score in this league, is getting 13. They're trying to figure it out. And Joe, when you play every other day and only have 2 preseason games, and you're playing the Sun, the Liberty, the Sun, the Liberty, then you go out west, not a good spot here. I like the Sparks plus the 1.5. I think they win at home outright.
What? It's so interesting so far, the season so far. You mentioned it. They are just milking everything they can out of the standalone games with Indiana here, Coach. Let me ask you,
I got
Are they better than what they are now?
Probably, but I gotta get on my soapbox right here.
Yeah.
What they are doing to Caitlin Clark, folks, is a damn disgrace. They are treating this kid like the government mule. She is the cash cow of the WNBA. She gets their ratings. So what are they doing? She is playing her 6th game tonight. There are teams that have played only 3 games so far. She's playing tonight, and she's playing on Sunday. And think about who they've had her play. They're going to have her play the defending WNBA champions, right, on Sunday. She would have played the 2nd-best team, the New York Liberty, twice already. The 3rd-best team, Connecticut Sun, twice already. And here's the caveat, folks. 3 out of the 6 games so far this year, the Indiana Fever are the only game on the schedule. Very simply put, they don't care about nothing but ratings. I get it. She is the cash cow. I get it. A lot more people are watching. But if you think that that's going to help a young team that hasn't won in probably 2 years, if you think this team's going to win and make it to the WNBA playoffs, it ain't going to happen. The team needs practice time. FanDuel, it was plus 148 yesterday. It's minus 125. Indiana Fever will not make the WNBA playoffs.
Well, they better hope they get better for a month from now, because ain't nobody paying money to watch an 0-12 team. Coach,
go watch Caitlin Clark. whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offensive defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Happy Friday. Welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. We've gotten the coach, James Young, all worked up in a frenzy. So we've decided, well, let's bring him back here to get up worked even more here as we've got WNBA games here tonight. Coach told you not a big fan of the scheduling early on with the Indiana Fever. But, Coach, I want to make sure that the folks watching here can get your full card here tonight. You like the Sparks at home as a dog, plus 1.5. What are you doing with Caitlin Clark here tonight? I mean, if they ain't winning, is she getting hers here tonight?
Yeah, she's getting hers. Listen, folks, she ain't the problem. Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and the rest of them jabronis, they're the problem. Caitlin will get hers over 20.5 points, right? Over 3 of her 5 games. Think about who she's played. She's played against the best of teams defensively in the Liberty and the Sun. I think she goes off tonight. Caitlin Clark over 20.5 points. But on the flip side, Darica Hamby, know this name, over 17.5 points. If people don't remember, she played for the Aces. Got traded before last season, and alleged it's because she got pregnant is why they traded her. Okay? Has a fallout. But with an increased role has been increased opportunity. Hamby is scoring 22 points a game to start the season. She's gone over 2 of the 3 games. 1 game she missed by the hook. I talked about Aaliyah Boston. There's no rim protector for the Fever. And the Fever give up the most second chance points to the opposition and 10th out of 12 teams in points in the paint allowed. Hamby eats inside. Darica Hamby over 17.5 points tonight.
It's interesting, too. The total's hovering around. Well, it's gone up, Coach. 165.5, 166. It opened at 164.5. Are you thinking points, and more points? Because we got some over props here. It feels like we should be able to get over this number tonight.
Yeah, I mean, if you really look at it and you kind of dig deeper
no defense, right?
No defense. You're looking about opponents' points per game. And the Indiana Fever folks give up 91.6 points per game. And then you look at the Sparks, they give up 83 points per game. If you start thinking about defensive efficiency, they're not efficient. They're deficient. They're near the bottom, both teams. So I think you get pace. I think you get a lot of, in case of the Sparks O-boards, I think this game can go over. I think they want, listen, at the end of the day, what do they need? If Caitlin Clark is playing the only game of the night, do you think they want to see like a 62-58 game?
Amen.
Like they need points, points, and more points. Game goes over tonight, Joe.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Coach, you've been in that locker room. You think there's an adjustment? I mean, Aaliyah Boston, you had mentioned some aren't living up to expectations, but boy, oh boy, the spotlight is not on them. And do you think there's any animosity in there playing a role in what we've seen from them early? They should have won a game already, correct?
No, they shouldn't have won a game already. Because you think about it. Opening
you don't
night,
think they're talented enough?
Opening night against the Connecticut on the road. No. Second game, New York Liberty at home. No. Third game, New York Liberty. No. Fourth game, Connecticut Sun. No. Fifth game against a Seattle Storm team. First game on the road, West Coast trip, 1 day prep. You got to fly across the country. That's a damn mess. I don't care. Folks, I don't care if it's chartered or commercial. Fly across the country. Play a game. You try and play a game on a Monday and then fly across the country all night, Monday night, get up, go to practice, play Wednesday against a team that's got a Wubake, right? That's got, Skylar Diggins-Smith, that's got Jewel Lloyd. No, they weren't winning. And here's the crazy thing, folks. If they don't win tonight, Indiana, and I'll be honest with you, folks, I don't think they're winning. They're sending them poor kids to Vegas. I got one better, Joe. I was wrong.
Oof.
It's a back-to-back. They're playing it tomorrow night in Vegas. Like, what are you doing to this kid?
Oof.
What are you doing?
Wow.
What are you doing to this kid?
That's a hell of a schedule, Coach.
Schedule. Oof. And they've given up 92, 102, 91, 88, 85. They can't defend. And they're giving it over. I mean, Lord have mercy. I'm going to say this right now. Whatever the team total is for the Vegas Aces in the first half tomorrow, lay it.
Ooh.
Lay it.
Wow.
Lay it. If you want to go one better, if you want to just say Vegas in the first half minus the points, lay it. Vegas, 2-1 on the season. Folks, their third game, they lost by 10 at home to the Phoenix Mercury.
Oof.
And they got this kid coming to town,
Oof.
and you don't think Asia Wilson, you don't think Kelsey Plum, you don't think Jackie Young, you don't think them girls are going to eat? Oh, my Lord, have mercy. Whatever the line is in the first half is in that game, folks, just run to the damn window. Just run to the window and take it. They have it up. Oh my God. They already have it up. It's 15 is
How
the
much?
spread for the game. It's 15 for the game. First half is the margin. Let me try to pull it up here. Wow. I don't think I see the spread yet for tomorrow.
Not
but
yet.
Poor baby. Oh Lord. Oh.
Well, when do they win? Coach,
bad.
look at that schedule. What is the first winnable game, do you think, on that schedule? How far do they how much longer can they go? They got about another 4 or 5 games before they actually have something that they might win?
Yeah.
I'm going to assume it's at home, right?
Yeah, well, what will happen is they could catch a little bit of a break here because of the fact of, and this is why, the first game they're going to win is Tuesday because they have the Sparks going to them. So here's the flip side, folks. This is where you guys start thinking. This is me as a coach. They play the Sparks 9 o'clock on Sunday night at home. Game ends at 11. They got to eat. They got to get on a plane. Now they get on a plane at 1 in the morning, if they're lucky. Maybe 2. Now they got to fly east. So that's to Indiana. That's probably a 4-hour flight. That's 6. That's 9 a.m. So they're going to land at 9 a.m. and they got to practice and then play Caitlin Clark the next day. Indiana by double digits on Tuesday night versus the Sparks.
I love it. And see, that's why looking ahead to the schedule is certainly so important. And Indiana, to your point, Coach, has not been done any favors by the schedules of the WNBA. But circle it, Tuesday, opportunity there to get the big first W there. I kind of feel like maybe the Knicks win a game before Indiana does. At least that's what they're telling me in the year. Is that true?
No. But Joe, you're a very astute guy. You're very smart, and you got me thinking, folks. This is for our guy Preston, the Preston Pacer, the big Pacer fan. That's been giving me all kinds of mess this whole week. The Indiana Fever will win a game before the Indiana Pacers do. Zinger! I'll see you next week, fellas.
Wow. See, I'd like to think that I had nothing to do with teeing that up there on Coach, but actually, that was well hit there, Coach. Well done there. Outstanding.
I saw it coming in nice and easy.
Outstanding, Coach.
Enjoy
it. Cheers, my friend. Game time decisions continue.
Missed call the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report, and people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offensive defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. And it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. It is Game Time Decisions on this Friday. Welcome in, Joe Raineri, joined by my good friend Mark Zinno on location in Florida, I believe, getting a little sun and fun on the beach here this weekend's in. We appreciate you stopping by, but we got plenty of Major League Baseball up on the docket here today. It was a getaway day yesterday. Looking forward to that game tonight with the Yanks and company. But let's start here on some of these games getting ready to tip. First pitch actually coming up. Blue Jays, Tigers, your Braves and Pirates. We got some good games coming up here. Tell me about it.
I mean, I'm still trying to figure out if the Blue Jays are bad or the Tigers are good. I don't think either one is true. I still have a problem believing that the Tigers are priced accurately. I get where they are in certain spots, but I just look at that and I look at their lineup and I look at their numbers and go, how am I supposed to back this team when they can't hit? Like, you have no idea on any given night how many runs they're going to score and how many times they're only going to score 2 or 3 runs and end up being in a tight game. Like, I just, they're a tough team to figure out. Obviously, their pitching is worth backing, but for me, when you're asking them as a favorite, to go out and lay money as a favorite with them, I can't get to a spot where I'm going to do it. The Blue Jays are another story altogether. This is a team, again, every year when we get into spring training, we talk about them possibly being, one of those dark horse teams for the World Series. We're making a postseason run, and they do the same thing every April. They start out sluggish, they start out slow, and then they spend the rest of August and September trying to catch up only to fall short. So really, really tough round. And then, oh, by the way, the Blue Jays have Alek Manoah on the mound, who hasn't thrown a strike in about 2 years. So he's found a couple of cheeseburgers, just not the strike zone, and all of a sudden he's now a 4A pitcher at best.
Kind of crazy, Zim, because they've been talking now, you're like, oh, well, maybe Vladdy's on they're going to trade Guerrero Jr., maybe the Yank. And, is it gotten that bad with Toronto that that's what we're talking about right now with what was supposed to be one of the best lineups in all of Major League Baseball? Speaking of baseball lineups, what's going on with the Braves here? Seem to have righted the ship a little bit there against the Cubs. Are they rolling that over here tonight against the Pirates?
I would think so, that their bats will start to return to form. I mean, that 19-1-1 under streak that they went on, was something of quite the anomaly until the Padres showed up and started scoring runs on them to break it. But, again, I think the Braves bats will start to normalize here and get back to where they were. Remember, they're still missing Austin Riley. They're still missing Sean Murphy. And Ronald Acuna has been hitting too many ground balls and not enough fly balls to put the ball outside of the playing field there. So I think all these things will start to come back for the Braves. They're too good. I mean, it's just too early at this point in time. I know we're at Memorial Day, but the idea that we want to count the Braves out and think that this is a team that's going to struggle to catch the Phillies, I just don't see it. I still think they're the favorites to win this division when push comes to shove. If Ranger Suarez has any sort of regression to get back to the pitcher that he was, I mean, he's been phenomenal this year. Can't take anything away from him at 9-0. But if he starts to come back down to earth as we get towards, middle of June into the All-Star break, guess what? The Braves will be there to take advantage.
Yeah, another interesting one coming up here tonight coming up top of the hour. Cincinnati, another team that just can't figure out how to hit, but they should be able to hit Paxton, should they not? What is going on with him and the Dodgers here?
I mean, Paxton is a guy, when you look at his record, you go, okay, he's pitching well, but then you start to look at his numbers, he's not. He's got a walk problem, and that's always going to be an issue for a guy who gives out a lot of free passes. And eventually a team, or more often than not, a team's going to take advantage of it. The Reds were a team that I said coming into the season, I want to play Reds overs. And I was right all throughout the month of April. And then May turned around. And all of a sudden, they just stopped hitting and stopped scoring. And they're not hitting home runs. And, this lineup all of a sudden has sort of hit a flat spot, much similar to what the Braves have done. I think that they'll start to turn it around. This could be a spot tonight. Again, you look at those numbers, you see the line on the game, Joe. It does raise an eyebrow that the Dodgers are a shorter favorite than expected here against this Reds team.
Yeah, well, in your neck of the woods right now, down in St. Pete, you're going to get Tampa Bay taking on Kansas City. Seth Lugo on the mound for Kansas City. He's been pitching great, but can you trust the Tampa lineup?
I don't. I mean, look, I played on the Royals here on the money line today. I looked at them, and I also played the first 5 under because, the Royals bats on the road have been silent. I mean, you're talking bottom 5 in batting average, OPS, and WRC plus. And, the Rays, while their pitchers aren't great, they're going with a bullpen game tonight, which is a little bit scary because their bullpen isn't great. They've given up the most home runs of any bullpen in Major League Baseball, but I'm going to play on the fact that the Royals bats will be a little bit silent, and Seth Lugo is going to have to do his job to keep them in this game for the first 5. There are several times this year where I've played the Royals in the first 5 only to have their bats not show up, and then in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, they end up scoring 4 or 5 runs and end up winning the game, and I keep kicking myself here. So I tried to see if I can go with a first 5 under in Royals full game.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Mets tonight have a one against the Giants. I believe Harrison going for them here tonight for the Giants, who I believe the bullpen is completely shot. They've got nobody left. So he better be able to go at least 8 innings here But does it matter? He's going up against the Mets lineup who can't hit anyway. I mean, my goodness, they are terrible, especially against lefties.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. The NL East, I don't want to take anything away from the Phillies, but the Marlins can't hit.
No.
The Mets can't hit. The Braves can't hit. It's like, dear Lord. I mean, they're almost handing this to the Phillies here. That old adage, you can't win the division title in April and May, but you certainly can lose it. Well, the other teams are doing a good job of losing it and handing it right to the Phillies at this point in time because nobody there can hit the baseball. In fact, you mentioned the Marlins. Braxton Garrett is on the mound tonight. He's had 2 starts, giving up 5 runs in both of them. I played on the D-backs in the first 5 here with Zach Gallen at home tonight. Try to get to the first 5. Arizona against left-handed pitching, number 1 batting average in baseball, number 2 in OPS and WRC plus against lefties. So this was a spot here at a manageable number in the first 5 where I paid minus 130 on the run line for the D-backs to cover that half run. So it's a spot I'm hoping that the Marlins don't do anything and I can scratch 1 or 2 across here from Arizona.
Yeah, Gallen at home. Fantastic start last time. Imanaga on the mound as well for the Cubs here tonight in St. Louis. We'll get your thoughts on that game coming up soon. And I want to know how you're betting Darvish versus Rodon, who is quietly winning me over here for the Yankees here with his last couple of starts. So we'll talk more about those games. We'll dive into tonight's NBA game with you, as well as game time decisions. We'll continue next year on the Grid.
Whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offensive defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. And it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network here. And we've got Mark Zinno in the house and getting ready for what should be a tremendous weekend in sports here, as we've got playoffs in the NBA, the NHL, and we got some great series underway here for this weekend tonight, Major League Baseball. Mark, you and I were just talking about it. We love Imanaga on Chicago and the Cubs here. I think the kid is absolute. It's going to go down as one of these best signings we've seen all year long for the Cubs, except I don't understand the number here tonight. It just feels like going up against Mikolas, this should be $2, but only it's $1.54. What are we missing here?
We're missing that the line stinks for a reason, and I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole because I don't want to bet against Imanaga for how good he's been, and betting against Mikolas almost feels like a free gift. I mean, maybe the only thing really you can do is take the Cubs team total over here, at probably a little bit of a lesser price than the minus 150. But beyond that, this line reeks, Joe. There's something stinky about this. It feels like St. Louis might steal a game here against Imanaga, and maybe odds makers looking at him going, he's been so dominant at some point in time, he's going to have to fall off the wagon, and it could just be a road start against a rival team in a rival city that might, be the spot where he gets tripped up. I mean, again, I stayed away from this game. I saw that number, and I looked at him, and I said, even this morning, it was even lower. He was like, why is he only a minus 140 favorite? Minus 135, minus 140 against a bad Cardinals team and a pitcher that is prone to giving up a ton of runs. So this is as fishy as a line gets, and I wouldn't touch it.
All right, so you just convinced me to take St. Louis in the first 5 at plus money. Where to go? Right. How about our Yankees here? Quietly, Rodon, he hasn't made a lot of noise, but he's quietly giving them quality start after quality start, starting to feel it here a little bit, going up against Darvish out in San Diego. What do you think of this game here tonight?
I mean, how do you step in front of Darvish right now? What has he got, 25 scoreless innings in a row? And again, he's home. If this was at Yankee Stadium, you might have a little bit of a different look at it. And you're right about Rodon. He's been a mixed bag to this point, but his last couple of starts, you start to go, maybe he's finally figured it out in pinstripes, and he's a guy that you can rely on but then again, I'm looking at the entire Yankees rotation and going, maybe they finally figured it out. Maybe they're a guy you can actually rely on. Luis Gil, for crying out loud, looks as one of the best pitchers in baseball, and nobody knew who Luis Gil was, 3 weeks ago. So it's been a really interesting set of pitching for the Yankees here, and you get that low number at 7.5. I'm almost inclined to just be contrarian and take the over 7.5 here, as both these lineups, obviously can hit the ball really well. You got Judge going up against a lefty and Darvish. Could that end up working out for him? And the same for Stanton here. But, it's tough to step in front of Darvish, but at some point in time, he's going to allow a run, right? At some point in time, he's not going to continue to go. Yeah. He's not Orville Hershiseing this thing for the next 59 total innings here. So I would probably fade him a little bit in this spot. But I think contrarian, and we get over 7.5 at some point.
Yeah, you might even find a 7 available, too, at this point as it continues to drop here. All right, so NBA action here tonight. Game 2, Western Conference, Minnesota and Dallas. And I'm not going to lie, Zin, I am deathly afraid how the entire world is backing Minnesota here.
Is a little bit unnerving. The flip-flop theory in the postseason is right here. But again, I mean, look, there's a couple of things you have to just put into perspective here. Minnesota shot awful in the first game at 42% from the field. They shoot 48.7% at home. So you expect that comes back up. Dallas also hit over 60% of their 2-point shots in game 1. Minnesota had the number 1 defense in the league this year against 2-point shooting. So you have to figure that's going to come down a little bit. I looked at 2 things. I played Minnesota minus 5, but I also took their team total over 106. I think it's at 106.5 right now. I think it's probably playable at 106.5. But, the big thing for me is with Minnesota, they got to 105 having a really bad shooting night, right? What's the reason for me to believe that if they normalize a little bit, that they're not going to get over this number? I keep saying it about Minnesota. When they are paced by their offense and not their defense, I think they're a much more effective team and they're much more difficult to beat. I want them to play with pace. I want them to score first and worry about defense later in the game. For the first, 2.5 quarters, just push the pace. Keep trying to score as much as you can here and build as big of a lead as possible. Then turn your defense on in the final 15 to 18 minutes of basketball, and hopefully you can lock them down. That's what Minnesota's been so good at all year long. So I think this game goes over. I think it's a little bit more high scoring. But, Minnesota with their team total was a little bit more of just like a hedge in the fact that they could win the game 105, 90, 92 and be done with it.
Should be a good one. Then enjoy your weekend. Hit them straight. Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offensive defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in. It is Game Time Decisions on this Friday, and we've got much going on here tonight heading into this Memorial Day weekend. I'm Joe Raineri, joined by my good friend George Kurtz here, and no doubts, George is looking forward to coming down to Florida, I believe, to check out the Stanley Cup when the Florida Panthers win it this year. George, always a pleasure to see you, and there is absolutely no way, and I was just telling these guys, there's no way an Islander fan is going to come on this show and back the Rangers. It's just never, even if he thinks the Rangers are going to win, there's no way you're coming on this show backing the Rangers, right, George?
I think that's fair, but listen, it's all about money, right? If I think the Rangers are going to win me money, then I'll back the Rangers. Right? It's all about cash. All right. I am not someone who is never going to bet on the Rangers or bet on the Red Sox or the Eagles or because I'm a Yankee, Islander, and Cowboy fan. It's all about cash here. That being said, yeah, I have your Florida Panthers defeating the New York Rangers. I had them in 7 games, right? I thought it was going to be reverse, Joe. I thought maybe the Rangers would win game 1, then Florida would take game 2. But the way game 1 played out, and I know it's one game. We shouldn't overanalyze and panic, but Florida looked good. I mean, they looked the best I think they looked in the playoffs. Like they were almost like they were toying around the first couple of rounds, toying with their food, playing with their food a little bit. Now with the Rangers, they're taking it more seriously here. It was pretty much a 1-0 game. The second goal was their own goal by Lafreniere, tipped it in, nothing they could do. And then our friend or our enemy, the empty net goal there. So it was a good game here. But Florida looked like they knew how to control the Rangers here. Florida is a hockey team. The Rangers need power plays. And, we're in the conference finals now. If the refs are going to let the boys play, the Rangers are going to be in a little bit of trouble here. Rangers going to be, and listen, if Bobrovsky's going to play as well as Shesterkin, this is over. All right. Shesterkin has to outplay Bobrovsky. It's the one thing that has to happen for the Rangers to have a chance. So I thought they would, I really thought it would be 1-1 going back to Florida, and then they would take control here. This game it's not a must win for the Rangers, but it's pretty close. You lose your first 2 in New York, and you're going to, what? What's your best case scenario? You're down 3-1 going back to New York? Must win tonight for the Rangers. Small play on the Rangers here. I think we're going to see more goals tonight. I think that will be 1-1 here. I'm going to take the over as well.
Yeah, I know a lot of it was amazing the lack of urgency that we saw the Rangers in game 1. Yeah, it never looked like they really felt like their back was up against the wall. And yet I'm looking up in the third period, Kurt, they got like 12 shots. And Bobrovsky, they had a couple of great opportunities there in the third, and he stoned them. Fantastic. But you didn't make them work. I mean, you couldn't even get shots off in their end, Kurt. It was amazing the defensive job that Florida did. And quite honestly, Florida didn't look like they were working too hard to stymie them either, did they?
The Rangers had 3 breakaways, so they had their chances here. Now, let's not forget, both teams came off long rest. I think the Rangers had 7 days.
Yes.
The Panthers had 6. So there's always that rest versus rust thing. Maybe the Rangers needed a day to get back into it. We'll see here. I don't know if that's the case. You know, I said the rest was even for both teams, so it's not like one team had an advantage over the other. But Florida in both their game ones of the first 2 series, they came out a little slow, right? A little slow, especially against Boston, right? But I thought Florida may have played their best game of the playoffs in game 1. That's what impressed me. I thought they may have played their best game. I'm not just saying that because Bobrovsky had a shutout. You just said the defense looked good. They kept the Rangers in check. That's why I think this game was so important tonight. Was it because the Rangers just had the week off and needed a little bit of flow here, or was Florida have something over them? If they come out tonight and once again nothing's working here, then it wasn't the layoff. It's Florida that just has the Rangers number here. That's my worry here. You know, I expected the series to be a long one. I think I had Florida in 7 coming in. But I think once again, if Florida wins tonight, this could be over in 5.
Yeah, they're going to have to figure out some ways to beat Bobrovsky there in some way, shape, or form, because we've seen this version of Bobrovsky too, Kurtz. And if you think Shesterkin's unbeatable, when this guy gets it rolling with that team, a 1-0 situation, which, by the way, it was, I believe, into the final 4 minutes of the game, was just 1-0. And then you mentioned the tip-in goal and then the empty netter with about a minute to play. So I know a lot of people, including Mr. Opposite Picks here on the network, telling everyone about 19 straight games these two teams played, scored at least 6 goals or more. I ain't sweating out an over in this game. I'm not sweating out an over in this series. What are you thinking?
I wouldn't. Now, when you say sweat it out, that means you have a bigger bet. I have a small bet on the over because it's telling me I'm getting plus 102. So it's telling me to take the over. I'll put a couple of bucks on, but nothing where I'm going to sweat out. Nothing that I'm worried about. Nothing where I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock tonight. It was only 4 or 5 goals. We're banging my head against the wall here. No, because I don't. I'm certainly not guaranteeing it. We do have 2 really good goalies here. You know, and these guys have both played well. Shesterkin, it's been good, and Bobrovsky was great. Yeah, I thought he may not have had the pressure, but still, 3 breakaways is 3 breakaways. You stoned them all.
Yeah.
If you would have let in 1 of 3, we still would have said, hey, that's good.
Yep.
Right? 1 of 3 is about the average here. He stoned all 3. So you got to hand it to him. I don't trust him. I don't really trust Bobrovsky all that much, not as far as I can throw him, but he outplayed Shesterkin in game 1. And like I said, Shesterkin didn't play badly. But all the pressure now is on the Rangers here. And, it's funny, a lot of Ranger fans, Matt Rempe is a big thing here, right? Oh, he should be in the lineup, this, that, the other thing. Ranger fans, they want revenge more than anything else. They want revenge. It's the playoffs, boys. There's no time for revenge here. And you can't have Rempe going out there looking to hit people because of what happened to Philip Cheetah late in the game, which, by the way, I thought was a legal hit anyway. It was a hard hit, but legal.
Right.
So what are you complaining about here? And you want to take revenge here and put the Panthers on the power play? You do that next season. All right, do it in game 14 of the regular season somewhere next November. You don't do it now. But if they do put Rempe in, it'll be just more to send a signal, to the Panthers. You better be aware. We can put him out there at any time, but I just don't think the Panthers care. I think they'll say, put him out there. No matter what line we have out there, better than Rempe.
You're gonna play right into Florida's hands. Oh, you want to go bully, huh? Okay, we can do that too, and they do it better though. So I'm with you. It ain't broke, don't fix. You were close in game 1. Have a couple of take advantage of some of the opportunities, and you're gonna be fine here. What exactly did you make of that mess last night, though? Talk about sweating out an over, right? If you had the over 5.5, oh my goodness. You get 3 goals in a second, and then what happens? You get 1 in the 4th, ties, goes to 2 overtimes. Another home loss in game 1 for Ottinger in Dallas. I don't know what to say anymore with that. It's unbelievable with Dallas.
Well, we should know that by now, right? This is 6 straight series, I believe they've lost game 1.
Crazy.
How many times do they need to be hit over the head? How many times do they hit? They don't play well in game 1. They need to be slapped in the face and woken up, right? Yep. Then they wake up and realize, oh, it's a playoff series. I better play well here. I mean, you had your chances to win. Was it power plays were 5-1? You had a double minor in overtime to start the first overtime, and you have to score there. McDavid gave you a gift. I don't know why he didn't shoot that puck. What are you waiting for, Connie? You trying to pass it to somebody? Put the puck in the net. So he waited too long and gave Edger a chance to make a spectacular save, which he did. McDavid obviously made up for it later with the game-winning goal. But Dallas had opportunities to win that game. They didn't. Now, that being said, once again, I'm on Dallas to win the series. I have them in 6. I didn't expect a sweep. And we all know Dallas loses game 1 all the time. So I'm not all that worried about it. I'm concerned because now, once again, I don't think you're in a must-win. Not like the Rangers. The Rangers are in a must-win tonight. I don't think Dallas is must-win tomorrow, but better win is what I would say. You better win tomorrow. So I'm not all that worried about it. Rupe Hintz, I'd like to know what's wrong with this guy. Missed another game.
Yeah, no
kidding.
kidding.
I saw the hit. What happened there, Joe? That hit didn't look that bad.
Yep.
Did he just catch him wrong because he had a broken bone in his wrist or something like that? But he's out. I think that hurts a little bit. Seguin scores your only 2 goals, and he's not there for goal scoring anymore. Your bigger players have to step up.
Right.
I know Robertson hit a post, so close to ending the game. I think Dallas will get it done tomorrow. I was on the under last night. I'll be likely be on the under again. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring series. Not in Dallas anyway. Maybe in Edmonton.
Hats off to Skinner, by the way, for stepping up when he had to. So that's pretty much what they're going to need from him throughout this series. If he can do that, this is going to be a very interesting series. Talking about going to 7, it's going to go big time there. All right, George Kurtz, NHL. We've got Major League Baseball. We've got much to talk about. Come back and join us. Game Time Decisions here on the Grid.
Missed call the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offensive defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. And it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri, joined by George Kurtz here as we've talked some hockey. That's coming up top of the hour, but we've got plenty of Major League Baseball here today on this Memorial Day weekend. Already, George, a couple of games underway. The Pirates jumping out in front of the Braves, 2-0. Mariners in front of the Nats, 1-0. Pretty good pitching matchup there. Tigers have jumped out in front as well of the Blue Jays, 1-0. And the Rays on top of the Royals got the Seth Lugo early there. Dodgers and Reds getting ready to go here. Kurtz, did you have anybody in this? I mean, the Paxton's not going to go undefeated this year. Like, what is the deal with people not being able to hit him with the way he walks a million guys a game here?
This game scared me a little bit, Dodgers and Cincinnati, as far as betting Paxton, because I think they're going to be runs scored here. Dodgers aren't playing well, right? Didn't do all that great against Arizona. Couldn't score. And they didn't face great pitching with Arizona, right? I mean, Ryan Nelson shut them down. Yes, I may have been on the Dodgers in that game, so I'm still a little frosty about that. So, but Diamondbacks, hey, maybe they just have a Dodgers number, right? There's something with them this year. But Cincinnati, that bandbox there, I expect runs to be scored here, so I'm on the over more than the Dodgers themselves here. I want to see what Dodgers play well for a game or two. Yeah, I think they're just going through it a little bit right now. I mean, 8-9 days ago, they looked like world beaters, right? They won a 14-2 streak or whatever it was. Now they're slowing down again. I think this team just gets bored, right? Just gets bored for crying out loud. I feel the same way about you as Paxton, but listen, he once was a top starter, not an ace, but a good starter. Maybe he's found it again, but you're right. The walks are so concerning, and that's why I'm on the over tonight, because you put people on free passes in that ballpark, get that ball up in the air. All of a sudden, it's 3 runs on the board here. So I stayed away from the Dodgers winning, which is unusual for me, but give me the over.
Rangers jumped out in front of the Twins now, 2-0 in this one. Couldn't figure out the line with Imanaga on the mound for the Cubs going up against St. Louis there. And Kurtz, this felt like this should have been much closer to $2, and it's not. And that makes me a little bit worried here going up against Miles Mikolas, who's a gas can, but the Cubs can't really hit anyway. But, man, that feels like a cheap price for Imanaga on the road here, no?
It smells. All right, it certainly smells. It doesn't matter. I'm taking. I don't have a choice. If you don't want to pay the 148, take the plus 112 minus 1.5. If you think the Cubs are going to get win anyway, you said it. Mikolas, whatever his name, he's terrible. All right, they should be able to put some runs up on the board. And Imanaga doesn't let up runs to anybody. I mean, 2-3 runs might be enough to win you that bet either way there. I said I took the money line. I'll lay the 148. I think it's what it is right now. I'll lay the 148. No problem there. But I don't mind the run line either. I think you're good either way here. Like I said, Imanaga is a must bet for me until he starts to give up runs. No one can hit him right now for whatever reason. The guy is not throwing the ball 99 miles an hour, but he's a pitcher and a very good one.
Yeah. I did not understand the Guardians line either. Taking on the Angels here. Logan Allen taking on Sandoval, a couple of lefties here. And this is a pick-em price, Jordan. And I don't understand it, because to me, the Guardians are a much better team than the Angels. What are we missing in this one?
I think Allen has been 50-50, some good, some bad. And Sandoval has been okay. I mean, listen, I would give the Guardians, almost said Indians, I would give the Guardians the edge here, but I ain't playing it. All right. If anything, I would think, and I agree with you. When I saw this game, I thought the Angels would be plus money. I'm like, I might take the Angels this game. Well, they're both minus 108 even. I can't go that direction. I just can't do it. I'm going to leave this game alone here. If anything, by the way, if you wanted to hit this game, I would probably hit the over 7.5. The Guardians are not the worst offensive team, right? They can hit a little bit, and I think the Angels will get to Allen to score at least 2-3 runs here. So 5-3. That's my that would get me my over. I think that's where I might hit the play there. But even that's juiced minus 122.
All right, so if I thought about this, if I was the chalky George Kurtz and I was looking to put together a parlay, tell me if I'm onto something here. I would have backed Verlander with Houston tonight, and I probably would have included Baltimore and Corbin Burns somewhere in that. Am I close, George, with either of those two bets?
You've got half. You've got half of it right. All right. Corbin Burns, Baltimore's the easy one, right, against the Chicago White Sox here. The only time I'm not betting against the White Sox is when Crochet is pitching. All right. Other than that, give me anybody and everybody against the White Sox here. But my parlay with the White Sox is I thought about Houston. All right, but Oakland's played pretty well. I mean, for Oakland, they're not a doormat. Right? I don't think they're an automatic. That's just why I didn't choose them here. Although I don't mind for anybody who did, by the way. You want to go for Verlander, fine. But I went with the Philadelphia Phillies. All right. They never lose to anybody. All right. They don't lose to anybody. Sanchez has pitched okay. I know it's in Colorado. It's just somewhat concerning, but I think they'll do enough damage here. So I went with the Phillies here. The Phillies, by the way, I think they have the best record in baseball. I know they do. Do you realize they've only played 3 games this season against a team with a winning record? And those 3 games were the first 3 games of the season. I mean, hey, you play your schedule. You got to do it. It's not their fault. It's just not college. They didn't make up their schedule, right? They're playing who they were told to play. But the schedule's been very kind to them.
I wonder who made that schedule there, because usually Philadelphia, we can't bet them until after the All-Star break, but they are cruising right now thanks to a very favorable schedule. And what are we doing with our Yanks here tonight? I was telling Mark Zinno earlier, Rodon's winning me over, man. The guy has got 6 quality starts now in a row. He's really starting to feel it, and I think it's because he's the healthiest he has been. Darvish, can the Yankees beat him tonight, Kurtz?
The over-under is 7. 7. I'm going to take the over. All right, that's first. I'm taking the over. You're going to give me a 7 over. I know Darvish has been good. You just mentioned all the great stats for Rodon. Really, every Yankee starter for that matter. But I think there'll be runs tonight. So I'm going to take the over here. It's the Yankees. Listen, they just left, right? First game on the West Coast after a very successful, homestand again here. I kind of lean towards the Padres here. Once again, not a big play here. I like the over much better. I think the Yankees will get back to their winning ways tomorrow. They might take them a day to get used to the sun and fun in California.
All right. Well, it should be. It'll be interesting here. 7 it is. Feels a little light with those two lineups there against lefties. All right, George Kurtz. Appreciate the time. Cash those tickets here. Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
Missed call the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called, or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report, and people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offensive defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. A very happy Friday to you as we get ready for some playoffs. Playoffs? Yes, playoffs. Not only in the NBA, but the NHL as well. But there's no better way to kick off the weekend than with a little same-game parlay. And our good friend Davis Maddock has got one lined up here on the hardwood tonight. So, Davis, what do you got for us?
All right, we are back with another same game parlay over on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Game 2 of T-Wolves Mavericks took Mavs in Game 1. But to start our same game parlay here, I'm taking the Timberwolves money line. I think there are a couple real clear lineup adjustments for the Timberwolves to make. I love their huge lineup, the Kyle Anderson, McDaniels, and Anthony Edwards backcourt with no Conley, no Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I expect that lineup to play more minutes. Karl Anthony Towns was also not very good in Game 1, and Anthony Edwards only made 6 shots, while Kyrie and Luka made 12. Pretty simple explanations there. Also a disparity in the free throws. I think the Timberwolves get back here in Game 2, and then we are going to add Luka Doncic to record 25 or more points in this game because, come on, Luka Doncic is a point-scoring machine in the playoffs, and Anthony Edwards to record 25 or more points in this game as well. He will go as the Wolves go. This 3-leg same-game parlay plays plus 141 odds. Timberwolves money line, Doncic 25 or more points, Edwards 25 or more points. Good luck tonight, everybody.
All right, Davis, good stuff there. Should be a fantastic evening across the board. It's getting ready to kick off here, top of the hour. In the NHL, though, with the Florida Panthers looking to take a 2-0 lead over the New York Rangers. And a fun fact here, you may recall just a year ago with the Florida Panthers, boy, this is all too familiar, is it not? Only they were massive underdogs last year until, of course, they took down the Boston Bruins in 7 games. But when they made it to the conference finals a year ago against Carolina, they, too, were still a big underdog here. They are not an underdog tonight. In fact, they are a slight favorite in a number of spots here, just like they were in Game 1. But they are also trying to become the first team in 15 years in the NHL to actually go ahead 2-0 in back-to-back conference finals. It has been a long time since a team has been that dominant that they went on the road and took the first 2 games in the conference finals from their opponent. That does not happen very often, but they are looking to do it again. They did it last year. They're going to try to do it again here against the New York Rangers. Total sitting at 5.5. And boy, that feels like this one is going to be another one of these 2-1, 3-1 kind of games. But I do anticipate we're going to get a few more shots on goal from the Rangers here. And shot on goal props are also probably very hot here tonight in this game. I would think that Ranger backers are looking for multiple shots on goal with Trocheck. Probably going to get his there. Also think the under, and if you're going to back the Rangers, I think it's all correlated here. I do think shots on goal will be coming, and they will be making good old the Florida Panthers here in Bobrovsky work tonight. As far as the NBA game goes, some of these lines in this game tonight have got me scratching my head here. And I know we're going to hear about how the bounce back, and this is a great spot to back the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I get it. Zigzag. Yes, I get it. Game 1 loss. Minnesota has been phenomenal. But before we take a look at anything but Minnesota, I will remind folks that the Mavericks won that game in Game 1 despite going 6 for 25 from 3. 6 for 25. Now, regression, both positive regression, works both ways here, as the Minnesota Timberwolves outshot Dallas from 3, which was not expected in this series, but they still ended up losing. And now Dallas probably going to make a few more threes than just 6 in this game. So there is a lot of questions about this game here tonight, but the market is clear. They are anticipating Minnesota to win, and win rather easily. We'll see if that comes to fruition as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offense and defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. And what a Friday it is shaping up. Great way to head into this Memorial Day weekend as we've got NHL playoffs here tonight. We saw a great one last night. Double overtime win by the visiting Edmonton Oilers, taking down the number 1 seed, the Dallas Mavericks last night. What a series that's going to be. We get that this weekend. We also have game 2 here tonight between the Florida Panthers, who shut out the New York Rangers in game 1, 3-0, a game that was much closer than the final would indicate there, especially given the fact that I think it was about 4.5 minutes left in the third period, and that was still a 1-0 game. And the person who's going to carry you right through that game here tonight, joining us, the one and only Mr. Dave Sharapan, wearing his Miami colors, it appears here. Was that a Crockett and Tubbs outfit? Is that on display at like Madame Tussauds or something? What is that you're wearing, Sharapan?
This is the San Diego City Canucks because, in addition to a good basketball game, a great hockey game. We got the Padres hosting the Yankees tonight. Darvish, home dog. They'll be wearing the City Connects. We'll be talking about the Padres later on in-game live primetime. But yes, listen, I was going to come with the Rangers stuff, but I didn't want to get anybody upset. And I said, all right, we'll stay neutral, at least with the gear on the hockey game. I can't wait to watch it, Joe. I think we're going to see the Rangers' best effort. They were flat. They missed a couple shots early in game 1. And then Florida got the lead and took the crowd out of it. There was a lot of things that happened. Now, you see this line today and you go, what's going on? How can the Rangers be dogs at home again? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Still not sold on the side. But we got an under in the first game because Florida got the lead and choked out the Rangers. I don't think that happens tonight. I think we get some more scoring. We get a power play or two. Thinking over. What about you?
I'm still trying to figure out how that's a San Diego color there. I'm
What
pretty
says
sure
it?
that's a Miami. This just in, Miami wants their colors back. Stop it. So what we want to do, that's totally Miami. You ripped them off, San Diego. I'm curious though, Dave, with this one too, because I read this earlier today, and it reminded me too that it's been a long time, 15 years. If you remember this time last year, we were talking about how the Pants will never get by the Bruins. Oh, they'll never get by Carolina there. So they won the first two games in that conference final last year, got Carolina. They went back to Florida up 2-0. It hasn't happened in back-to-back seasons in 15 plus years in the NHL. That in conference finals, it is not easy to go back-to-back and win games on the road to go up 2-0. If the Rangers give the effort, but it's still not good enough, and they come down here 2-0, how long does this series last, you think?
5.
You give them 5?
Be hard pressed. Yeah, they'll probably. I still think they're going to take a game, whether it's tonight or whether it's one of the games in Florida. I mean, the order is inconsequential, but I think it's going 6. I still think the Rangers, if they win tonight, they split in Florida, and then look out. We got a real series. I don't think it's an automatic that when they go down to Miami that Florida wins both games. The Rangers are really good on the road in the first 2 series. So I don't want to say it's over if the Rangers lose tonight. I don't think it is, but then they have to win both games in Florida.
Right.
If they win tonight, then we got ourselves an extended series. That's it. So listen, man, it's going to be a great hockey game. I think we get a great hockey game. We had a great hockey game last night with Edmonton and Dallas. Edmonton played a perfect road game, almost lost it, Dallas scored late. They hit the post 3 times in overtime. A double minor for Connor McDavid to start the overtime period. The Stars don't score. Edmonton survives and scores 27 seconds into overtime. Forget about it. Like this, the playoffs are getting better and better and better. And I hope the basketball game lives up to it. We were talking during the break.
No.
This is just one of those ones. They're just advancing the narrative that it's going to be a split. What if Dallas wins tonight?
I'm with you. I haven't met anybody who's on Florida yet or on Dallas here tonight, Dave, which is extremely scary because there seems to be this huge consensus where, they can't go down 2-0. Okay. Carolina didn't want to go down 2-0 last year in the conference final. Didn't seem to work out all that well. Indiana didn't want to go down 2-0. I find it fascinating, especially in the basketball game, just given the fact that you realize you're fading 2 of the biggest stars the game has that are playing at their best level we've seen with Doncic and Kyrie. And here's my fear, Dave. If Doncic and Kyrie have anything to say about it here tonight, I don't care what Minnesota throws at them. It's not going to be enough because I do trust the offense of Dallas more than I trust the offense of Minnesota. And how do you shut those 2 down? You couldn't shoot them down in game 1, Kyrie in the first half, Doncic in the second half. I don't know how does that formula not happen again tonight? And if it does, tell me again how they're going to win by 6.5? They're going to win by 7?
It's getting a little bit much, like the kids like to say. That's a little bit extra. When it says 6, that's 3 baskets, 2 threes, whatever you want to call it. I think Minnesota's path isn't to stop them both. They have to stop one. And personally, if it was me, it would be like, all right, look, let Luka get his. But we can't let Kyrie do what he did. We have to make it harder and harder and harder for him because he took on the challenge of taking Ant out, and he won. He won that battle. He scored in the first half and kept Anthony Edwards under 20 points, which for the prop, I mean, that's one of those ones that people were just betting over, and it hasn't got there. So Minnesota has to find an alternate source of scoring for sure, but they have to find a way to make sure that pair, Batman and Robin, is a solo act. Can only be Batman. There can't be a Robin tonight. So Personally, I think it would be, if it was me looking at it, and again, I'm far from a qualified basketball coach. I mean, we should have had JY on and ask him, who would you take out? It would be, for me, it would be Kyrie. I'd say, look, get the ball out of his hands. Don't let him be a scorer. Make someone else beat us. So I would look at his props under, like scoring props tonight. His assist prop might be an over. But that would be, which one would you take out, Joe? If you had to pick one to let him get theirs and not let the other one get theirs, who would you say, we got to stop this guy, Luka or Kyrie?
Well, there lies the problem, right? I don't care what you throw at Luka, you're not stopping him. And if you're throwing that many bodies at Luka, then you're leaving other guys like PJ Washington. You're leaving a whole lot of other guys to step up, and they've already done that, right? OKC tried to do that. They threw everything in the kitchen sink at Luka, and all of a sudden guys are hitting wide open shots all over the place. So it's pick your poison, right? Who do you want to spend more time focused on? But that's my point. You can't stop them both.
Nope.
This is going to be a tough game here tonight. I think it's going to be a good one, but I'm not sold that this is a runaway train for Minnesota, that they're automatically going to win this game and run away. This number, I feel like, is continuing to rise, and I think, well, what are the chances last minute this thing drops where the Dallas money comes in last minute? Is that a possibility?
If they get off of if you flash a 6 or higher, any 6.5s immediately.
Immediately dropping down. Could be where the line is in the sand. Game Time Decisions returns after this here on the Grid.
Every missed call, the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called, or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offensive defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Getting ready for a loaded slate of games here tonight. NHL, top of the hour here. Game number 2, Eastern Conference Finals. Panthers taking on the Rangers at the Garden. And then, of course, you've got a game 2 coming up in the Western Conference Final in the NBA. Dallas trying to go up 2-0 on the Minnesota Timberwolves here tonight. But the market seems to think that is not going to happen. But we will see. That's why they end up playing the game. Dave, what were your thoughts on the total in that game there with Dallas and Minnesota? Because I'd opened at 208. We saw it drop. Now it's starting to tick back up, 207.5. But that Dallas team total is 100 points. Their first half team total is 50.5. So isn't there a scenario where, listen, the Timberwolves could very well win, but both of these teams score and go over their team totals?
I fell for the under last game. I don't know if I want to do it again. This is the problem.
I'm with you.
I think it's an under game, and I think
you think it is.
So, I do. And again, fool me once, shame on me. Or no, fool me once, you fool me twice, shame on me. Said that in the book all the time when I watch guys come in and rebet something like under in the Indiana and the Boston game. They bet that under the first game. And they're like, oh, the second game's going to be under. And I'd be like, all right, what did you see that would lead you to believe it's under? I don't think we saw too much in game one of this series that would lead you to believe it's under. But what I said in the first segment, I meant one of those Dallas guys can't score if this game goes under. If both those guys do what they did, one half, the other half, whatever, both halves, then the game's going to go over. I think you get an improved Minnesota defensive performance and team total. Joe, can you see both team totals going under? A low-scoring game. Winner of this game gets 100 points, 102-95. That's the score in that neighborhood. I don't know if both teams even get 100 tonight.
Well, and then I would say correlate all of that. If you're on the under in the game, then fade Dallas, fade, like you said, it could be 100-90. Could very well be. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I definitely think the first half is going to be higher scoring than the second half. And I think that's pretty much a given. I think we're going to get a big Timberwolves effort early. I know a lot of guys, Dave, that immediately laid the 3.5 in the first half for Minnesota, expecting them to come out firing. And I get that. But I can tell you right now, if that's the case, Dallas is not going to be down 10, 12 points at the break. I think they're able to get to the century mark in the first half. 55.5 is the Timberwolves' first half. So 56-51, 107. I mean, that's basically what it is, Dave. They're saying we're only going to get 100 points in the second half is what they're basically saying, that the defense is eventually in that second half for both teams are going to clamp down, which leaves us with an over in the first half because I don't think this is going to be 38-30 at the break by any stretch.
I don't think so either. I don't think so either.
Nope.
I don't know. The number's good, right? Like when you have the debate like this and the numbers are, it's 207.5, 208 sitting around there.
Yep.
I think it's a good number. Like when I saw the Celtics number and the Pacers number, I didn't feel like as strongly about that. Like where you really had to sell me a really hard case on the under. This one, we can make a case for the over. We can make a case for the under. I think it's going to be the in-game live stuff. We're going to see it. We're going to see it early, right? Because if you're right, that first half is going to shoot that number up. Peralt did it the other night on his other show. He said, start the game over. And when it hits 225, which it did go under, and we had a nice 17-point middle that he nailed. So I think that's kind of the way this thing will dictate tonight. We'll know early if it's going on an over pace, it's going to jump. The danger is if you go over 208 and they start slow, it's only going down. You're going to have to fade it when it gets back up, right? It'll go down to what? The number's 199, 200. When you're doing that stuff in game, when you're booking it,
That's
you don't want to drop it as long as you can below the 200 because that's when the deluge comes over.
That's correct. Now, let me ask you here on the flip side, Rangers-Panthers. First period under hit first game. First period under good in this one, too. I don't see it being a high-scoring game. I could see, hey, Rangers up 1-0. I don't see this being 2-1 heading into the second, if you know what I'm saying.
I don't know what to expect at the beginning of the game. I was told, let me see, I want to make sure before I give you the quote.
You got to see defense, no?
Well, we had a scratch, right? Somebody got scratched, and
Okay.
I believe Rempe's playing. So if Rempe's playing, there might be fireworks early. And I mean fireworks, hockey fireworks. Some fights, some physical play. There may be power plays early. I'm not saying that the Rangers are going, look, we can't start slow again. We got to get the building electric. We got to take advantage of being MSG. We got to need some energy early. So we'll see when the starting lineups come out here in a couple minutes, whether they're going to just tap each other on the shoulder and say, all right, let's go. And we get a power play early, Joe. This first period may go over. That's the danger. There was one power play. Florida had one power play in the first period of game one. That was it. They played even strength the rest of the time. If it stays no penalties or one penalty, it's going under. We get two or three penalties, multiple power plays, boom.
We got line movement. We'll tell you about it when we get back. Game time decisions here on the grid.
Every missed call, the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
With the onset of NIL and the transfer portal, it is allowing players to develop further in college, and guys that would maybe be stuck on the bench at a power program and not have as much shine are having the ability to find themselves in the spotlight.
Lane Kiffin came out and said we need to get bigger and more physical in terms of the offensive defensive lines, and that's why he went out and recruited that talent.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. A clear line has been drawn in the sand in the marketplace here tonight with both playoff games. Joe Raineri alongside Dave Sherapan, who will be taking over with Matty Peralta coming up top of the hour in-game live primetime. They will have you covered on everything, NHL playoffs as well as the NBA. So Dallas in Minnesota coming up the bottom of next hour, 8:30 Eastern time. The Panthers and the Rangers at the Garden. Puck getting ready to drop here in about 7 minutes. All right, so we're trying to figure out how this game starts here, Dave. You said in a minute or two we'll have an idea on the starting lineups here for the Rangers. I don't know that it makes any sense for the Rangers to try and play bully hockey with a team that wants to play that way and would have no problem doing it. So I don't think they need to be that desperate or that where we got to hurry up and switch things up. I don't know that we're going over 5.5. And it feels like this is going to be the same thing like it was last game. We're going to have to wait until the second period to get which team blinks first. Both teams to score is nearly 2-1 in the first period here.
Wow.
Sharapan.
Wow.
If you think the game
That's
goes
really
that
high.
way, that's huge. That's huge in this game.
Put it this way: both teams score in the first period, the game's going over. You can forget about that. I will be very surprised if it does not.
Yep.
If the Rangers get a lead, we have a very different game. If the Panthers
Correct.
get a lead again, the way they're playing and limiting shots on goal, the Rangers, I just saw 1 for 12 in their last 5 playoff games on a power play. 1 for 12. And their power play is really good. So, again, I'm not saying one item, one line is going to determine this game. But if the Rangers score on a power play, you probably should have them in game. If the Rangers don't score on a power play, it's going to be tough. Florida's the best team in hockey, 5-on-5. I got to get out of here. Finish this one strong, Joe. I'm doing the show tonight with Dane Martinez. Peralt is out.
Oh, Dane,
hanging out.
there you go. Perfect. There you go.
Dane.
Well, listen, tell Dan, I hope he remembers how to get there. Always a pleasure, Sharapan. We'll talk to you over the weekend. Good luck. I know we got a lot going on here tonight. We'll see you here over the weekend without a doubt. But interesting. Regulation tonight. Rangers. If you think they can get it done in regulation, plus 150 here tonight. If you think the Panthers get it done in regulation, plus 150. If you think the game goes to overtime, it's almost 3-1, plus 285. So if you think this is going to come down to maybe a little extra hockey like we got last night, you may want to sprinkle a little something on the tie at the end of 3 periods of hockey. So bunch of different ways to be able to approach this game with the Panthers and the Rangers, but that's it. I just can't see. I have been digging far and wide to figure out why it is that absolutely nobody seems to be betting the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight or the Florida Panthers, which leads me to one conclusion. If you want to know what it's like to be a contrarian bettor, well, here's your opportunity. You got to bet the Dallas Mavericks and you got to bet the Florida Panthers. This is a true contrarian player's dream scenario here where everybody is running left in both of these games. You need to run right. And usually that's how you make pretty big money. And I'm not talking about taking the 6 points either. I'm talking about take Dallas to win this game straight up tonight in this matchup here. Mostly those points won't come into play. They usually don't in the NBA playoffs. And the Panthers not getting any love, but somebody's got to be betting them because the majority of the tickets and the majority of the money that I am seeing across the board are on the New York Rangers, and yet they are still not a favorite. They're still a slight dog here, which means maybe some of the more influential, some of the bigger bets are on those Florida Panthers. Contrarian bettors, they are coming out in style here tonight with these 2 games, as the public clearly thinks the Minnesota Timberwolves as well as the New York Rangers will make this series 1 game apiece heading into the weekend. I am not so sure about that. I can tell you there. Plenty of Major League Baseball also coming up right now. First pitch, New York Yankees, Padres, late game. Enjoy it at 9:40 in-game live. Prime time is next here on on the grid. Enjoy your night. Enjoy your weekend.